What we want? Bop bop. Turn that down a bit.
Emma, what are you eating? Hey, drop it. Drop it. What is that? You just throw it out.
Great. Okay, so you can start us off with that question I asked you to say.
The goal of the live stream?
The goal of the live stream, I don't really know. It's another possible opportunity to do the work. Okay, so there's two works to be done. One, to find people who want to do the second work, and two, to explain to people in easy ways how the mind works and how it doesn't work, and how we can use this information to be and do better. It's a big gap between the research and the public, and that gap is just increasing. In French, you have a term called vulgarizer. I don't know whether people say that in the US, but it's for people who make YouTube videos about science stuff to explain it to the public.
Not like an influencer.
No, I mean, I guess it's a subcategory of influencer, maybe.
Because there's a greater good behind it.
Yeah.
Influencers are for profit.
Yeah, so then let's not say it's a subtype of influencer at all.
Okay.
But it is intellectually influencing, isn't it? Just not to buy certain makeup. So that's the idea.
Right, it's the intellectual movement, the intellectual cult that is being...
Yeah, I think you go too hard with the cult joke.
Alright.
I think it's good sometimes, but just not every time.
Well, you need followers for it to be a cult.
Right, I know.
You need blind adherence. You need not critical thinking. You need not what we are going
Not what
for.
we are about. That's the analogy.
Oh, I'm gonna put myself in the sun. No, I'm not. You're right.
Like I need to be a little more out of the sun so that I can sit up straight, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, great.
Okay.
All right. Well, what we can start off with is this. So I'm reading, oh, I didn't bring the cover. I'm reading How to Be Human, the manual, written by Ruby Wax, a monk and a neuroscientist. Okay, so we read the chapter on evolution, explaining why, well, we'll talk more about all that stuff. We read reading the chapter on thoughts, and we came across a 3-person trialogue.
Oh.
And so I was thinking we could each do a role and read it for the camera. So there's Ruby, there's a neuroscientist, and there's a monk. Since you're a woman and in the middle, would you like to be Ruby?
Okay.
Okay, since I'm brown, I'll be the monk, and since you're white, you can be the neuroscientist.
Excellent.
All right, perfect. All right, so you can hold it.
Here's an
I should read the end of this. Sorry, I'm sorry. Section, The Monk, the Neuroscientist, and Me. As promised in the preface, I'm going to welcome Tupten, Buddhist monk, and Ash. Oh, Tupten, Buddhist. No, you can read this.
Alright. As promised in the preface, I'm going to welcome Tupten, the Buddhist monk, and Ash, the neuroscientist, to explain how the mind and the brain interconnect. Ash can explain both the brilliance and the shortcomings of the brain, and Tubin can tell us what to do about it. So take it away, boys. Okay. Here's an easy one. Ash, why do we have thoughts in the first place? What are they?
It sounds like such a simple question. I think what you mean by thoughts is the internal voice, the way you talk to yourself about your own ideas, who you are and what you want. That's right at the center of what we mean by consciousness. But we get into trouble with thoughts about thoughts, rumination.
What does Tubin think of thoughts?
Well, Buddhism is traditionally called the science of mind. It's all about the study of the mind itself. We're looking into the nature of thoughts and the mind, which is thinking those thoughts.
So, Tubin, you think about the mind, and Ash thinks about the brain. I heard that the brain is a piece of meat, and the mind is the information that flows through it. Do you guys ever cross paths?
There's a bit of a love affair between neuroscientists and Buddhists. Buddhists have been studying mental function in detail for a very long time, and neuroscientists get pretty excited about that. The questions are the same, but the methods are different.
Exactly. It's an exciting interface.
Are you guys flirting? Okay, here's the $1 million question. What are thoughts in our brain? Where do they reside?
Where can be misleading in the brain because we're almost always talking about large networks rather than specific areas. So when we look at thoughts that we're aware of, when we speak to ourselves with an internal voice, we're linking parts of the brain that do language, like auditory cortex, with parts that do self-awareness, like...
Don't get too fancy. I want people to read this book.
But you asked me the question. I'm a neuroscientist. The answer is going to be complicated. Hearing your own thoughts requires both language and self-awareness. So you're talking about the dominant temporal lobe and the medial frontal cortex, mostly the cingulate cortex. That network creates a sense of self, so you recognize that the thoughts are your own. If the network doesn't work, like in schizophrenia, you hear the voices but can't reorganize them as your own. The voices will seem to come from someone else.
I love when you talk brain to me. Tubin, what's your view on all this?
We can study the nature of thoughts through practicing meditation and mindfulness. Thoughts don't exist in the way we normally think they do, so that blows the question of where out of the water. The whole point is to see that we're bigger than our thoughts, so we don't have to be so glued to them or controlled by them. There's an old Tibetan saying, when you run after your thoughts, you're like a dog chasing a stick. Instead, be like a lion. Turn around and face the thrower. You only throw a stick at a lion once.
Ash, I wrote earlier in this chapter about how we're the worst critics of ourselves. What is the point of having thoughts that make us so miserable? At least I'm grateful you can't hear what I'm thinking.
How do you know I can? I'm a doctor after all.
I'm pretty sure you can't hear channel me because you're on channel you. If you ever heard what I'm thinking, you'd run for the hills. There's a lot of self-flagellating going on. Because I know you're a neuroscientist and I'm not. I'm scared you'll catch on that I know very little. Those are mine. What are your thoughts?
I worry that what I'm telling you isn't funny, and I'm going to come across as dull and boring.
What about you, Tubin? Do you have critical thoughts even though you're a maroon-wearing monk?
Yes, I'm worried that if I don't come up with the goods, you'll dump me for the Dalai Lama.
I was thinking of doing that, but he's not free. What's with us? I still want to know why we are so self-critical. Ash, do we have some sort of asshole gene? Nothing to do with the bone, just asking.
If you're using the word gene as shorthand for some biological tendency that we're born with, then I think yes. Our brains have a tendency to focus on error signals, to focus on the negative. That may be something we've developed to survive.
Well, where is the asshole gene exactly?
The asshole gene is the self-critical bits of the brain, the parts that do internal monitoring. Those are regions like the prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate, and the insula.
But why do we need those parts? Life is tough enough.
Because those parts activate error signals, which are there to help you. So, for example, you're walking down the stairs and you think you've come to the bottom step, but your foot continues to go down a bit too far. Your brain generates a big error signal that grabs your attention and stops you falling. Error signals work like stop signs, so you can figure out what's wrong and do something different.
I can understand there's a part in your brain giving you, oops, maybe I'm going to fall down the stairs. But why do I also add, I'm such a klutz?
The problem is, we have that error signal, and on top of that, judgment and self-criticism. This seems to be especially prevalent in modern society. When the Tibetan Lamas first started coming to the West in the 60s, they were shocked at the levels of self-hatred and guilt that so many people here suffer from. In the Tibetan language, there's no word for guilt. In fact, in Buddhist cultures, children are brought up to believe that the mind is naturally good.
What if in the West we left out the word guilt and didn't teach it to kids? Would we not feel guilt?
I'm going to defer to the neuroscientist.
We'd definitely be better off. Our brains may stop and notice our mistakes, but if the culture doesn't push it, then guilt may never come into play.
If we gave monks the word guilt, would they feel it after a while?
A lot has to do with upbringing. I think children in the West are told no a lot of the time. Maybe our parents are so stressed that it's just easier to say no a lot. Traditional society in the East tends to be more of a yes culture. The children hear the word no often enough. They grow up believing they've done something bad, haunted by this internal voice, you're wrong, you're bad. And that who they are is something to be said no to. Grown up with the feeling that there's something wrong with us.
I had a lot of guilt as a child.
Stay here.
It's probably the intersection of an American Midwestern culture, which is pretty puritanical, with an Indian. Should I be talking like that?
Definitely.
With an Indian culture where children carry the burden of their parents' aspirations. I suppose that, as an adult, that guilt is at the foot of a lot of my self-criticism about something being wrong with me or whether I'm working hard enough. But can I go back to the asshole gene for a minute?
Maybe because... Wait, what's that? Okay. Maybe because you feel guilty, you want to change the subject. Okay, go back to it.
I think in some ways it's not bad to be self-critical because it warns you that something isn't right. Your internal voice grabs your attention so that you analyze the situation. When you're feeling happy and things are going well, the internal voices are quiet.
Why don't you notice the nice voices? You're so right. I've never gone, wow, I am so gorgeous, I could date myself.
When you're feeling happy, you're not doing a lot of analysis about how you're feeling. You're just feeling. But negative thoughts are different. They signal to the brain that there is a problem and resources should be dedicated to fixing it.
So if I had a life with no negative thoughts, what would I be thinking about?
I think you'd just be being. When the brain isn't worrying and you're just at rest, it's neither happy nor sad. It's just whirring away. Tibetan, is that what mindfulness is?
Mindfulness isn't just the absence of negative thoughts. It's about finding a completely different relationship to thoughts, negative or positive. Whatever you're thinking, the aim is to just notice the thoughts without judging them. And then they don't have so much power over us. The point of learning mindfulness is to reduce our suffering. And the reason we suffer is because we believe our thoughts, and therefore we're constantly being pulled into distressing mind states.
So are you saying we're all natural-born sufferers?
We tend to be what I call negocentric. Made worse because the culture we live in constantly makes us feel we're lacking. We're not beautiful enough, thin enough, or driving the right car. There are various ways in which we suffer. We could talk about 4 major types of stress. Not getting what we want, getting what we don't want, protecting what we have, losing what we're attached to.
That's me, all 4 of those.
And they just continue. The wanting creates more wanting, and it creates a feeling of deficiency or lack.
So what do you do about it?
Well, it takes training. That's what mindfulness is for. You see it arise, learn not to grab onto it, and because you don't make a meal out of it, it can begin to dissolve.
I guess we're born with the ability to stand back from our thoughts and not give them bad reviews, but we forget to do it. Same as we're all born with a pelvic floor, but we don't use it. Do you agree, Tubin?
I don't know what a pelvic floor is.
I'm not going there. I don't want to ruin your life. Ash, do you think you can hold back from judging?
I'm very judgmental. In general, judgment and evaluation are central to how the brain works. But there is a gap in time between perceiving something and judging what it is and what it means. For example, when you see an object, it might take something in the range of 50 to 75 milliseconds to start to see its colors and shapes. It takes up to 200 milliseconds before your brain can name the object and associate that name with meaning and value.
I heard it was about 201 milliseconds.
I heard it was 199.
I'm pretty sure it's 200. Maybe the goal of mindfulness is to intervene after those first 75 milliseconds to just see what's in front of you before naming it or evaluating it. I imagine that could be possible with training and practice.
And it's the same with thoughts. Mindfulness trains you to pause in those early milliseconds when you notice a thought, before you start evaluating and judging. Then the thought will control you less, and you can start to make wiser choices.
So I just notice I missed the stare, but I wouldn't need to then tell myself I'm an idiot for missing it.
Right. You can develop a habit like that. You have the thoughts, but you don't get wrapped up in the commentary.
So what part of Tubin's brain stops him from getting caught up in judging and commenting? If we skinned Tubin's head, what would we see?
I'm already skinned, I'm bald.
Not enough. I want to know what his brain looks like after all that mindfulness.
Well, studies show that the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex becomes more active in experienced mediators. That part of the brain is involved in stopping self-criticism and judgment. The more you practice taking control of your thoughts, the more effective that part of your brain gets.
So the idea is to bulk up that part of the brain so that we can pick and choose our thoughts like you do with Spotify?
Yes! With mindfulness, we can start to understand which thoughts are helpful and which ones make us suffer, and we strengthen our ability to let go. We're not usually our own boss. Our mind often goes to places we'd rather it didn't, or it won't do what we want it to, but now we're getting into the driver's seat.
That makes sense from a brain perspective, but how do you actually do that? What are you doing when you're practicing meditation?
When you notice your mind getting caught up in a whirlwind of thoughts, you can gently bring your focus to one of your senses, such as breathing or sensations in the body, using these as an anchor. It's like getting in the driving seat and driving that car back to base.
Okay, but how does that help stop your runaway thoughts?
Because you can't be focused on thoughts and breathing or sensing at the same time. And when you get good at this, your thoughts are going to control you less. Eventually, you won't need an anchor to bring you back. You can just observe and let the mind be without needing to interfere in it.
We'll find the relevant mindfulness exercises for thoughts in Chapter 11.
Great job, guys. Thank you so much
That's
for
a
doing
wrap.
that. Excellent. We can pause.
Okay, do you have a
on that.
discussion question, or?
No, I'm not super interested in any of that, to be honest with you. I mean, it's all really good. It's just not, I mean, yeah. That's one application of sort of understanding that you are a brain. Although you couldn't tell from the dialogue whether they understood that. You may have noticed that they kept talking about a relationship between you and the brain. That the brain says something to you, which just doesn't make any sense. We've never found you if there is anything other than the brain. So it turns out you're probably just a brain inside that skull. And this is mindfulness and all this stuff that she teaches in this book. Those are valuable applications, but not enough to inspire a discussion question from me. What we could do is, if you don't have to, because even audio is fine. I don't know, you seem like you were warming up and wanted to switch seats here. If
Warming
you did, yeah, well, either way, regardless. I'd love to do a brief interview with you. I do these, in Europe, I did these interviews in the street, trying to collect data on the people. And so I'd like to see where you're at, how you see yourself and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah? Alright, so can you point to yourself?
Can I point to myself?
Yeah, please. Okay. Can you get any more precise? Can you touch yourself? Are you touching yourself right now?
Touching my face.
You're touching your face?
Yeah.
What would you need to touch yourself?
Well, when you say self,
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know
my
if
question.
you're referring to like my body or my consciousness or
Yeah, what
something
am
more
I referring to?
specific.
What I'm referring to is whatever, if I could only move, the minimum I would have to move to another location to have moved you to another location.
No.
For instance, if I took your consciousness, whatever that is, and left your body behind, have I moved you?
Well, I don't think consciousness is measurable or quantifiable like the body. Like
Okay.
there's no matter to consciousness.
Ah, okay. There's no matter.
You can't put it in a bottle. You can't.
You can't
measure
okay.
it.
You can't measure it. So, well, then
No.
neuroscientists and psychologists, they're shit out of luck.
Well, it's just separate fields of science, I guess.
Hold on, let's define what is your consciousness. Does that include like your personality, your perspective?
I think. Well, I want to back up a second. I think the closest thing that we have as humans that is a physical representation of consciousness is art or music, infrastructure, tangible things that you build or create.
Well, those are the results of consciousness.
A reflection of consciousness.
Or reflections of. Okay. Okay. Tim, can I move you from one location to another?
You can move my body.
I can move your body. Okay. And then how do you decide whether or not to move along with your body? Or how does that get decided? Like if I moved your body, is it automatically you that's moving with or what? What's going on?
I mean, there you can resist, you know.
Okay,
Like if you
let's
tried to
try.
pick me up out of this chair.
No, but not your body. We're talking about your consciousness is going to resist. Okay. But body, do not resist. I'm going to move just your body. And I want your consciousness to stay here in the chair. Let's go. Okay. No, but body, okay. Work with me, body. Tell consciousness, tell body to work with me. Okay, good. Thank you for sending body over here. Okay. Now, Tim, let me ask you something. So, are you still here in this chair then? Fuck, this is hard. How does the consciousness communicate? It needs the body. Okay.
It needs matter. And
It
that's
needs-
why I said music and art are reflections of consciousness, because the tangible thing that you use to make those, a paintbrush, a potter's wheel, an instrument, are made of matter. They're tangible things. But what you produce with them, a melody, a painting, can only exist because of your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
The instruments anyone can play a violin, but for it to actually sound good, you have
Okay,
to
just
have...
confirm for me. I know that the consciousness is operating this body to get the sound, and so it's coming from over here, and that's the physical stuff. But just confirm for me that you are still here in this seat. I asked you to resist and stay here. You said you could. Just tell me you're still here, because that matters to me right now.
I mean, I'm over here. As far as I know, the only way my consciousness can communicate is through my voice.
Yeah, but okay, the consciousness is where? Point at the consciousness.
It's in this body.
Did you as a consciousness fail to resist when I moved the body? Should we try again?
I mean, I didn't vocalize resistance.
No, but I asked you to resist and stay in this chair. Can you just the consciousness
Sure.
come back to this chair so I don't look silly looking at an empty chair? Are you back in the chair now, Tim?
I mean, all I'm doing is visualizing.
It sounds like the
Some-
consciousness
something
might
sitting
still
there.
be over here. It also sounds like consciousness might not be a magical thing, that consciousness might be actually matter. might be a product of this brain. Because here's what I'm wondering, Tim. Oh, where do I look? Are you over here, consciousness?
I want to ask if
Yeah.
language is a barrier. How do we know that each of our own conscious I, speak English?
Sorry, do you speak English?
I mean, this body speaks English.
Are you your consciousness, or are you just the body? In which case, I haven't spoken to the consciousness, and you also can't speak to the consciousness because it speaks English.
That's the only way I know how to communicate with it.
So you talk to your consciousness?
When I talk to myself, or I hear the voice
Yeah.
in my head, it's always in English.
So is that voice your consciousness? The voice in your head?
I'm assuming.
Okay. So there's the word conscience, which is often referred to as the voice in our head, and then there's consciousness, which is
Right.
typically the self and the perspective of the self and the awareness. So I've never heard someone distinguish themselves from their own consciousness. So that's why you have to bear with me. This is new for me. Is the consciousness locked in this body or not?
I don't know that. When all of these organs inevitably fail,
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I replace your kidney, does that affect? If I replace your consciousness?
Well, a kidney filters your blood, so
It's nothing to
whereas
do
at
with
a liver-
consciousness? No, that you're right.
The function it performs is for a different system.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, liver, heart, lungs. Is there any organ that you associate with consciousness?
Brain.
The
and,
brain, probably?
Um,
Let me ask
the
you something.
nervous system.
If I put your brain into a blender, what would happen to your consciousness?
I don't know. I would assume that I would feel no pain because,
Well, there are no pain sensors in the brain.
but nerve
All right,
endings
sit
or
back
whatever.
down with your consciousness. I think I got what I wanted to from that.
Do you have a sweatshirt or something?
I
Oh,
think I'm
yeah,
okay for
you
now,
should.
but I might. It is getting now that the sun is going.
Chilly.
Yeah,
Do you have? Well, I
Yeah,
guess,
I
do you
do, I
have
do.
something of your father's that I can?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
yes,
get
I do,
something.
yeah.
Get something. Thank you.
Give you Bob's
I'll
jacket.
keep you warm with more questions. Okay.
Wait, when you were doing these interviews, were you doing them in French?
Maybe half.
Okay.
Because they weren't all in France. So sometimes if it was in Spain, it was in Spanish, and then everywhere else was in English,
So you're fluent in
French, and
just
English.
French. Okay.
But then I can interview in Spanish. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So, you are a non-physical entity? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, when you say you,
Yeah.
You gotta
That's
be
we're
more-
still
more
trying to nail
specific.
that down. Well,
You gotta be
I
more
want you to
specific.
be more specific.
okay. Well, so the
Who's
state,
talking right now?
the state and federal government recognize this body as Tim. You
Okay.
don't have a driver's license, a birth certificate, a
Very
passport
good.
that all associate this collection of organs
Okay,
as
Tim.
or my full name.
Now,
Tim-
would you
Tim
have
Egbert,
to re-register, like to vote, for instance, if your leg was amputated? Would it be like, oh, that's not Tim anymore?
No.
No,
I don't
okay.
think so.
All right, so it's probably not the whole body then.
Yeah, I suppose not.
All right. Well, anyway, never fuck the government. You, when I say you, who is responding to me? Is there an organ in particular that's responding to me? Like, is there like an organ that does language?
Brain.
Brain. Okay.
Brain.
So, is it? Let me ask you whether something is possible. And by the way, this thing I'm asking you is possible is actually the truth. So it's kind of being a little bit sarcastic. Let me ask you whether something is possible. Could it be that you, in almost every sense of the word, is a physical brain? Which would mean there's not going to be any heaven for you. There's no such thing as an out-of-body experience. That you have never left that skull, in fact. Is it possible that you are not this body? That you are an organ in charge of this body? Because you told me there's only, when I say you, that's a word, that's language. You told me there's only one organ that can handle language and respond to it and so on. So feels like I might even be talking to an organ, not this whole body. Hey, what do you think about that? You hear that?
Yeah. So, I just want to ask, or make the point that the brain relies on the rest of the organ system
To function.
Yeah.
Okay.
It needs the heart. It needs.
It does? Okay. So then, like, what if I put it in a jar with all the fluids and food, or the nutrients it needed, and plugged it in? And we haven't done that yet.
I know, like, there have been like organ transplants from like pig to human or sheep to
Sure.
like
Yeah.
whatever. So I don't know about a brain. That seems really complicated.
That's interesting.
because of all
That reminds me of an interesting question. If we swapped brains,
right.
this is chair A, this is chair B, that's chair C. If they did a transplant, where would you be sitting?
I think in your chair. I think
You'd be sitting in
yeah.
chair B. Okay, so you're a brain. We agree. You are a physical thing.
Yeah.
All right, very
I mean,
good.
you're not hurting my feelings with that. I'm agnostic.
Yeah,
I don't think there is a heaven or a hell or purgatory or
very good.
anything like that.
But there is still some commitment to you being special and non-physical.
What do you mean commitment?
I was hearing earlier comments about how consciousness is not physical, that you are not just the 100 billion neurons here mainly.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is totally normal, and it's part of the mission is to get people over this hump away from the common senses of self to a sense of self more informed by neuroscience.
yeah, I think when we did that like conversation out of the book and those like 4
Struggles.
anti-mindfulness things,
Yeah.
those are all, I interpret those as all the result of a capitalistic society. Feeling like you're like lacking or whatever,
Yeah.
comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that monks or Buddhists more specifically can handle mindfulness because that's a non-capitalist, they're not part of a capitalistic culture or environment.
Yes. That sings.
Yeah. Also, good and evil is just a construct of consciousness. They define each other relative to each other. So
You're hitting me with some hot takes, and then I just want you to connect them back to the conversation.
sure.
Or I'm happy with the hot takes. Yes.
No. Okay. Well, I think the larger point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't hurt my feelings to make the realization that I'm just a
Sweet.
organ
Right.
or whatever, however you phrased it.
Sweet. Well, excellent. I didn't think it would. You seem like a pretty smart, open guy.
I think for some people that would be a huge existential crisis.
Yeah. So when I interview some people, I have one interview, but that one's in French, and it's an anesthesiologist and some of his friends. And I said, "What do you think about the possibility that you might be a brain?" And the whole group just goes, "Oh no! Oh, that would be sad. No." Yeah. And the anesthesiologist said one of the dumbest things I've heard. He said, "I'm an anesthesiologist. If you're a brain, I would be able to, like, control you with just some molecules, just some
Yeah.
chemicals. That's literally what you're paid to do." What are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? It's literally why you make 90 a year or more.
I would think that under this understanding that organ, brain, that like reincarnation would not be
It just doesn't make any
possible
sense anymore.
because as soon as you take away the life supply to the organ, to consciousness, if that's kind of the conclusion, then
It's one and the same. It's not that the brain produces consciousness. the brain sometimes, in some ways, we don't really know what this means, but it somehow like experiences its own activity. In any case, besides our feelings, there's no reason to talk about anything other than the brain for now. I mean, there is an interplay across the nervous system and, and blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, the whole idea of brain produces mind. Now, here's why this matters. Because if you want to understand yourself, and wouldn't it help to know that, oh, you're a brain, so let me go and understand how the brain works?
I mean, yeah, but
what?
Most people are so naive to. I mean, people don't even know where their food comes from. So
Yeah.
how are they going to know how their own brain functions?
Yeah. So that's our job. Okay, so let me show you something, and then we'll close out. And we'll have more casual conversation. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me. Oh, you know what? You know who I bet wants to take the mic? Sarah. For sure.
Sarah's
Wait, what?
consciousness.
What it was?
Yeah, Sarah's consciousness.
What was that? Like a war salvation? Burger recognition?
Alright, let me just get this up. Should we go inside? It's cold, huh? Or do you want to explain?
Yeah, we can just do this.
Alright, very good.
I mentioned, earlier that we believe these illusions that
No, we don't. Oh, people believe.
people
We.
the enlightened folk don't, but the general public does, and so they're called the Warsaw illusions because Eric came up with them in Warsaw. And they sound like Warsaw,
They sound like Warsaw? I don't think he knows what that means.
they
They sound like Warsaw. What is that? These are the illusions when they express themselves. They just sound like Warsaw. You just get a Soviet, now Western vibe.
like I'm really in Poland right now. What's going on? Oh,
Another dog.
there's the small
I'm
dog.
doing well, thank you. Just making sure the dog's making sure the dog Oh, quiet. He's gonna be 8.
We'll pause. We'll wait.
I'm not bad.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you said last time. It's gonna be 8 this Well, thank you. I don't think I can really take credit. No, quiet. Go down and see him. Go see him. And how about
I'm not 100% sure how old she is, but somewhere about like 7 or 8.
Yeah. When did you guys get her?
When she was about 2. So,
Like 6 years ago.
we used to have another dog too. Her name was Turnip. But she got cancer. She was pretty fast. Yeah, it's pretty terrible. But she's buried in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. She went through, I had a really bad time with the pandemic because, when I first met her, I thought it was real and all that shit. So, she would help me through so many hard times. So, she loved it spot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
She deserves it. Alright, very good. Alright, well, good seeing you. Tell Monica I said hi.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Anything you want to Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Alright, see ya.
He just went to the bathroom. That's all I'm afraid. Yeah, just what you're doing right now. What do you think outside?
He's posh.
What?
He's posh. He uses plumbing and all that.
So posh. So posh.
So did you get through all of them?
We paused.
Oh.
We just took a brief pause.
Great.
Yeah, then we'll go inside.
Yeah. Oh, we should do that now, actually.
Good idea.
Here, can you hold that with one hand? Great. Not you, bro.
Alright. Yeah, that sounds good. Are you coming next week?
Oops.
Alright.
Can you believe you're doing your big Warsaw presentation now? Hey, chat, can we give her a big round of applause when she comes on stage?
Who's giving me a big round of applause?
Chat.
Chat.
Yeah, so it'll be pretty quiet.
Chat?
You don't know the lingo? This is chat. The viewers.
Oh, man. Right.
I've got maybe Steve Gaming
Alright.
and Bad Student of History. Those are my best friends. Maybe they're
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Join.
you're pretty close.
Am I able to like? Oh, is that?
Oh, so yeah, we gotta go back to Safari and go
Right.
like that. So I guess if we like do like that, and then we can go like that, I guess. So if you want to see yourself, otherwise you just do it here.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Yeah. Hey, that.
You know what you look like?
That
I know.
goes on my face. I cleaned that up a little bit yesterday.
I mean, I think I need help with
I
scents.
was able to get like all the rust off and stuff, so I don't know if you'd actually need to get it re-enameled or whatever.
Oh wait,
mean,
no,
you know, take a look
that
at
is
it, but
I
see what
do
you think,
understand.
but
Sense
it
is
cleaned up
sense
really
is
nice.
Senses, yeah.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Actually.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. There's gonna be a lot of fucking white. in there.
Attention? I mean,
White cabinet, white wall. The guy I work with.
did you unmute it?
Yeah,
Okay.
great job.
Great. Oh, right, it's that thing. Right, so Warsaw Legion. This is an important part of being a part of the movement, in theory,
Yeah.
and becoming Craig the Slay.
What does that mean? The fuck is Craig? I don't know Craig.
So
yes.
we call it critical recognition. So that is understanding the Warsaw illusions, or like believing them, and believing that you're a brain.
Yeah.
Is that all critical recognition is?
I don't know. Does it have anything to do with critical thinking?
I mean, yes.
Uh,
We have to use critical thinking to
But I could have sworn you told me the opposite. That critical recognition is the basis for critical thinking. That if you don't know how thinking works,
right,
it's going to be difficult
right,
to think well and to catch bad thinking.
Yes, right. So
Okay.
we can't think critically until we have critical recognition.
I see.
That's I confused it.
Not when she explained it to me, though. Okay.
So that's why we like all of the conversations that we have as humans are just kind of garbage because we don't know that we're brains. We haven't reached. Most people haven't reached critical recognition, according to the movement, which I haven't. I'm not the head of the cult. You know what I mean? I'm just a mouthpiece. I'm trying to be.
Me
A
too,
propagandist.
Bro. Yeah, me too, bro.
So what if everyone was on the same page? What would be if everyone was enlightened? There'd be like no violence, or like what's the upside to everyone?
Kind of.
No, there would still be violence. That's a pretty human thing. But
No wars, maybe.
yeah. Well, like for instance, one thing is if two people are not Craig, they each have different impulses, interpretations of the world around them, and because they don't know that they're shit brains, they think they see the world as it is, so each one thinks they see the truth and that the other one is stupid or evil. And so they go to war. Now, if both these guys are Craig, they go, oh, you've got different interpretations, so those neurons are firing different from these. Neither of us really knows what we're talking about, so we have to be humble, and then maybe that humility leads to less war. Also, the systems would just be better. So, for instance, it isn't an example for that, but just on the way over here, I was thinking it's not very Craig that if you're going the speed of traffic, you could get a speeding ticket, because that's just not that's just not how the mind works. Each individual brain cannot, okay, I'm going to go 40 regardless of the speed of the people around me. We're going to feel pressure from the vehicle behind me. We're going to feel weird because the vehicle ahead of us is going a lot faster than us. We're going to feel like we have to keep up, and that has to be taken into account. So maybe you adjust the system where if you're driving significantly faster than the other people, maybe, or we just somehow we put speed bumps. I don't know what it is, but we have to do something that doesn't see us. We have to do something based on a vision of humans that isn't this individualistic, capitalist. Each individual is rational and has free will and is capable of making all of the best decisions all of the time.
I can get behind anti-individualism.
Hell yeah. You
Yeah.
have to, that's a big part of it, because we have to stop believing that the truth is here and that it's up to each individual to realize his truth or whatever. We are a social species. We are all molecules in the cesspool of molecules. So we need to be relying on each other. We need to be regulating each other. And what I mean by regulating is that each person sort of has his role. There's no perfect rationality, no perfectly capable individual. We evolved to sort of bounce off of each other and regulate each other and work together.
It's kind of like that book, The Giver, right?
Okay, I don't remember.
Are you familiar with that? It's like I think it's like a novel, but a lot of like students read it.
Yeah, I
high
read it.
school.
We read it at Avery, but I don't remember.
And it's like, I don't know, some kind of futuristic society where everyone fills a role, a predetermined role, like farmer and nothing else. Like all certain women like conceive the children, but other ones don't.
And these things are assigned, these roles?
At their birth, like
Yeah.
or there's like a lottery or something. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read it, but
Right.
there's like one guy who is still an individual, and he has has access to knowledge and music and art and everything that is like stripped from this society or whatever. So I kind of there's like some parallels to Craig with that, like
And there were some interesting perpendiculars as well.
intersections.
Well, because you said there seems to be a valuing of this guy who is outside of the community, because the community is governed by a shit body.
Yeah.
And so it's good that he's sort of an individualist in that sense, which is, but if we had a more Craig society, then we would hope that he would be happy to be a part of the community.
Yeah. I mean, if I remember from that book, I don't know if he's seen as a hero or a villain.
Oh, okay.
But basically, he's the one with like the illusion, at least, of free will.
Yeah. Very good.
Which I see as the very first illusion on the list.
Yes.
So we got 6. We might add.
Wait,
2.
let me say something real quick. You are racist. You are racist.
Right.
I am racist.
Yeah.
We are the descendants of people who had a preference for those who are like us, our tribe members, who are going to be more lenient, more generous with our tribe members and our kin. And we're going to be, and who are wary of and even, mean to the others. That's how the in-group wins. Every one of us has this set of its that can be referred to as the in-group, out-group bias. A preference for the in-group and an aversion to the out-group. So when people aren't Craig, they go, oh, no, I'm not racist. That had nothing to do with why I reacted that way. Oh, no. And then they say, oh, you're racist, you're evil. And then they also say, oh, racism is taught, you stupid B word or A word or whatever. Racism isn't taught. What are you talking about? Now, there are aspects of it that can be taught, it can be exacerbated and so on. But no, we are the genetic descendants of people who knew to look out for their own and be ready to fight the other. And so long as we don't accept that, we're not putting systems into place to compensate for that. Every time someone applies for a job, there should be a person who does not know their race and gender, who is evaluating, and maybe, a person who then interviews also, That should be a legal requirement. All right, that's it.
It is. There are like federal laws about that.
That you can't ask and so on? What do you mean? Oh, there are federal laws that...
There's like federal laws that make it illegal to not give someone a job because of their skin tone or gender.
Right, but is there a federal law that says the hiring manager can't know the skin color or the gender?
Probably not.
Probably not, no.
I mean, they're still going to have the bias anyway.
They're going to have the bias anyway, which is why we need to compensate for it, so they shouldn't even have that information.
I mean, you're talking to a libertarian as it is, so I don't even think there should be a government, period. And if it does exist, it should only be for free food, free education, and infrastructure. And that's it.
There's this thing called libertarian paternalism.
Yeah.
Which is basically, if we acknowledge that we're not these rational souls, entities, then we might need some help, because we didn't really evolve to be able to be responsible with driving, be responsible with drugs. We didn't evolve those things. So in a libertarian paternalistic system, you can say, hey, I accept that I didn't evolve to figure these things out myself. I'm willing for the government to basically make these decisions, and then you can always opt out.
That's interesting, because government is basically just morality enforcement. It's
it is currently, but it should be human support, human resources.
I agree. Yeah, if it's going to exist, those core functions that I listed earlier.
Yeah.
For nothing else but that.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Do you? Because here's the crux of it. Do you think that we would survive if heroin was dropped off at everyone's door just as an option? Do you think that we could handle that? Do you think that we can handle that kind of freedom? Do you think that we are?
It's interesting. I like that. I like that exercise, because the choice is still there whether or not to use it.
Right.
But it's an aided choice. Right now, if I want to go do some black tar heroin,
You got to work hard for it.
Yeah, exactly. And even still, it's not a guaranteed thing that I'm not going to OD from it, or it's not cut with fentanyl or something like. So in your scenario, is it like pure, like it's a no risk choice?
Oh, heroin, there's risk. It's addictive. It'll fuck you up. But let's say it's not cut. It's pure heroin.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would make the choice to use.
Yeah. And when you say make the choice, that's funny to me because I don't really believe in choices. I think choices just kind of happen. They're triggered. Every single mechanism in the mind. So theory, it is if-then. Every mechanism in the mind is a pairing of conditions and consequent. Okay?
Logic, right? To your car analogy, if you were to drive whatever speed, there's logic as to why you shouldn't drive a certain speed, because if you crash, you'll feel pain,
Yes.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. So if we take that then, there could be an it. If I drive fast, then I may die. That it is a weaker it than if I drive fast, I will impress the woman in the passenger seat. All of our ancestors had, not if I drive fast, but like if I take risks or if I do something more than other people, then I will impress this woman. That's an it that is much stronger than like...
It's more animalistic, right?
Exactly.
It's reproduction, it's
exactly. So we have to look at evolution to see how these its weigh out, how they compare. So for instance, we know that the reason we reproduce and eat is because there's this nifty reward system. It makes us feel good to do those things. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it as much, okay? Not because, we don't eat because we want to live. We eat because it feels good. Right?
Yeah,
Mother Nature made it simple for us.
It makes sense why, in the U.S. anyway, capitalistic society, but why artificial, ultra-processed foods, why we're the fattest country with the highest rate of heart disease.
Yeah.
It's because the people who make the money have understood that if you give someone this 3-ingredient combo, salt, sugar, and oil, they'll keep eating it to the point of death.
Salt, sugar, and I don't know about oil, but in order of my confidence, sugar, salt, and oil are 3 things that are necessary for function, but that aren't easily found in nature.
Yeah.
So there's a really strong it. If sugar's available, fucking consume it. Take advantage. Get it in there. So then what happens when you have a society where sugar's always available? Well, that it's still running, so then people get fat. Which brings me back to the heroin thing and why I would object to a pure libertarianism, because we're not rational souls. So when we can't handle all these options, that's not what we are built for. I mean, it's like, Neo, if I leave food all over the house, I'm not going to be like, hey, Neo, Jesus, pace yourself. What are you doing? Why you keep eating? Why don't you make the choice not to eat the food that's in front of you?
But he's also a domesticated animal. He's conditioned. He's been conditioned since birth. If he was like a coyote or
interesting that you say since birth, but you said he's a domesticated animal. He didn't get domesticated since birth. Genetically, he's domesticated. So he is the descendant.
Didn't you get him from like a backyard breeder, like most people get dogs?
No, I got him off of Craigslist when he was 2.5, but I don't think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
The point is where did he learn his eating habits? I'm going to look a lot farther back than his birth. I'm going to say, well, he is the descendant of wolves who sat while the tribe was eating and then picked up whatever was dropped on the ground.
Yeah.
And not a lot was dropped on the ground, so he had to always be there when people were eating and get some. So when we're in my kitchen, even if he's had this much to eat, just the other day I gave him way too much to eat, And guess what? When my mom started cooking, he goes and he sits there in the kitchen,
Yeah.
ready to blah blah. So yeah. So this is the will illusion, that we have this ability to do what we're supposed to do. That we're not just neurons firing according to how they evolved to be arranged.
Okay.
Or rationality, that somehow it evolved an ability to purely consider information and get to the best conclusions. The most arrogant, absurd thought to me, but very common. But I don't want to steal your thunder here, bro.
Right. So yes, no, I but like I think that like a movement was born, like the Enlightenment, you know, like the idea that like humans are rational, like that's like and it's also like it underlies like all of our systems, like the legal system, and so like that it's just part of everything that, you know, we do as a society. It's just like it's built into the system.
I just read a very short book on free will, and he says that it's part there's something Supreme Court versus something in the ruling. It says we consider humans to be sort of autonomous, rational beings capable of making like the best choices. Economics, that's how they see humans, as optimizing utility. So Daniel Kahneman, and that's a name I won't let you forget, comes along as a psychologist, comes along towards the end of the 20th century, just died last year, and he says, "You stupid fucking economist, I'm a psychologist and I can tell you something. Humans are not rational." So he comes up with this thing called prospect theory. I'm not going to get into it because I actually don't know how to explain it. I think I'm not even going to try. And he says humans operate according to just mental mechanisms that are not super reliable, blah, blah, blah. And he wins a Nobel Prize. So this is all very recent. If you want to trace the history of this movement, I would say start with Darwin, first telling us that we're not angels, that we're biological organisms, that we're designed not by an all-knowing God, but just by the demands of nature at the time. Then move forward to when we first realized that we are brains, when we saw Finus Gage. He has a brain injury, all of a sudden his personality changes, and we go, that's weird. And then we just keep seeing that. Bring it to the last 20 to 30 years where neuroscience starts developing and we start actually seeing mental conscious activity in the brain. Daniel Kahneman. And then Sarah.
Eric,
Have you ever read anything by Jacques Lacan, the French, I guess you could call him a philosopher, but theorist? No, you should check him out. I think you'd see some.
Jacques what?
Lacan, Lacan. He has like some terminology that kind of parallels some of this.
Okay.
About like in psychology, there's like the id or whatever, right?
Right.
And so he has like a take on that, but it's pre like modern psychology, and I think you find it interesting. It's been a minute since I've like read him, but he gets into like some like Oedipal shit too, which isn't really relevant here, but like stuff about like self and like when you look in the mirror and you see your own reflection. Like that's one of his like analogies.
Because I am really interested in the history of thought regarding these topics as well.
Check him out.
Jacques Lacan.
Yeah.
Lacan.
And he's French, so.
Yeah. So I can read the original.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, very good. All right, well,
so, do we just wrap up? So essence, like you said with Phineas.
Oh, yeah.
So probably the little dog's probably out. So yeah, we believe like we have personality, but that's not. We don't really. It's and also like the So like addiction is like an example of a worthy, right? Is that worthy?
Yeah, but I don't want to throw more terms at
okay.
it.
So, but it's just like we, so the heroin example, like it's not just to reinforce the essence thing, like. It's not fair to be like, oh, Tim is a weak person because he got addicted to heroin. You know what I mean? Like, and the way that we understand these things, if we could remove that from the equation, like we would deal with these things much better. We're being like, Tim sucks, so he can't get over his heroin addiction. And then we talked about rationality. We falsely believe we're rational, obviously, and that really. That's such a it's in everything that we do, like in every, like you just kind of went over sense. Right, yeah, so the idea that like we're different, we're special, that like you wouldn't become addicted, you wouldn't be in a violent partnership, because you wouldn't fall for that kind of thing. Attention, that we pay attention to the most important thing in any situation. There's a really interesting, was it Kahneman that did the experiment with the
Chabris and Simons,
the gorilla, that like if you tell a person to like, I don't know, like count something in a scene, they might miss, they will miss the gorilla walking through.
Oh, you've heard of that?
I have. Okay. Yeah.
So that's an example of attention. And then storage, like we know this super well with fucking wrongful conviction. Like people are like, that was the guy, because my memory is like a videotape. And then it's like, no, it wasn't the guy because DNA evidence shows this many years later. So we believe our memory is like more special and more accurate when really it's not a reflection of reality. Like what we see is not what is. We think what we see is what is, but
and we had to evolve to trust our senses, but now it's becoming a problem.
How does cognitive dissonance fall into Craig?
Great, yeah. So that's another mechanism to be familiar with, how we resolve cognitive dissonance. So you are familiar with the technical definition of cognitive dissonance? Basically just that, two conflicting realities not failing to be maintained in the mind. And then we have to resolve this by dropping one of them. So for instance, you took a test, you failed the test, I am stupid, I am smart. What do I do? No, I'm going to drop I am stupid and attribute my grade instead to the test being bad. This way I can maintain just I am smart. Well, if you're Craig, you just might notice that and go, maybe I'm talking so much shit about the teacher right now because I'm resolving this cognitive dissonance. Boom. So anyway, so in conclusion, for our presentation, for your investment, your time investment and energy investment.
Presentation for team.
Yeah. In conclusion, we want to give people self-awareness, aka critical recognition. So one, deconstruct the myths about the mind that they have. Two, replace them with actually how the mind works, which is another list. And then three, get them to learn some of the common mechanisms that can lead us wrong, such as our tendency for cognitive dissonance resolution, in-group, out-group, confirmation bias, etc. Point.
You want to turn off the recording?
Great job, everybody.
Great job. Let me get you some water.